What's up, Rangers and hockey fans? Thank you all so much for chiming in for the latest episode of Rangers Review. Myself, Wardy. May you guys know me from my Mets channel, Wardy NYM. Also a good friend, Steven, the co-host here. Statboy Steven, you guys probably know him from Twitter, has north of 9,000 not subscribers, but followers, because he does everything regarding the Rangers, especially covering their prospects. Does a fantastic job. But we haven't done an episode in quite a while now. And that's been because so much has gone on. So I know a lot of you guys missed this live stream. If you're watching on YouTube right now, maybe on replay, we apologize. I know that everything's kind of last minute here. And also, if you're listening on the podcast form, I know you might not be hearing it until maybe later today, that being this Monday or maybe even Tuesday. But regardless, we have a lot to get into. There's so many reasons as to what has transpired since we last spoke over 2 weeks ago. And yeah, just Rangers. Nothing but positive on the Rangers front. Steven knows that very well. So we'll be going over the past really 3 weeks for the Rangers, at least according to here on Rangers Review. So week 6, week 7, week 8, which consisted of 7 games for the Rangers. They did very well during that span. We'll be giving our thoughts along with plenty of games that Steven was in actual attendance for those games. So he can definitely give more of an in-depth breakdown than what I could watching from home. We'll also get into the upcoming games towards the end of this episode. It's definitely going to be a prolonged one for sure. We'll be getting into Igor's injury, also individual player performances, exactly how Steven's trip went as a whole in New York, and taking some questions towards the end, and even to begin things along with what's been happening around the NHL as a whole. So a lot to get into. Again, thank you so much, everyone that's first chiming in the live stream, or if you're listening on replay or wherever you get your podcast, thank you as well. But Steven, long time no see, my friend. How are you today?
Good. Came back to landed in Dublin yesterday morning early, 4:45 a.m. Came home around 6. You know, you have to wait for your suitcases and this and that. So went to bed, slept a couple of hours. And then today was my first day back at work. So it's nice to be back. I thoroughly enjoyed my trip to New York. Rangers going 5-0 while I was in New York. So
you should have stayed, Steven.
You're welcome, fans. Funny story. The Rangers won as many games in my 2 weeks in New York as the Islanders have done all season. So I'm pretty sure Rangers.
I care that. We'll get into the Islanders disaster shortly. Don't worry.
Last time the Islanders won, it was still daylight saving time, by the way.
Exactly.
Anyway, great trip to New York. I was able to reconnect with some old friends. Meeting some new people, meeting people that I've met online for the first time now in person. Most notably, Steve Veliquette, who took time out of his day to meet up with me before the game against the Buffalo Sabres on Sunday. That was, I think, the 21st. So that was definitely one of the highlights of my trip. And then just, running into people that I've met before, like Lafreniere's dad, Nils Lundqvist's father and grandpa, players too, like talking to Capo Caco for the first time in 2 years. Was kind of funny interaction, actually, because I was wearing the Lafreniere QMJHL jersey that's now back on my wall here. I walked up to Capo Caco after the game was outside and said, "Hey, Capo, do you have time for a quick picture?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah. Haven't seen you in a while." And he looks at my jersey. He's like, "Nice jersey, but why no TPS?" And we were just cracking up. So yeah, overall, the New York part of the trip was great. I went to Hartford for a weekend to see the Wolfpack play. Was able to connect with kids like Justin Richards, Patrick Kodorenko, Tarmo Rion, and then Lauri Pauniemi, all kids that I've interviewed over the last 2 years. So meeting them in person was definitely a nice experience after that. Went to an Islanders game, saw them lose to the Sharks in overtime. I wanted to see the new arena, and tickets were only like $28. So I was like, you know what? Let's add another hockey game. And the last game I watched was the college hockey game at the Garden, Cornell against Boston University, Red Hot Hockey on the 28th. It was a good trip. I went to the wedding venue where I'm getting married in a year and a half. So we put that in stone. We put down the date, put down a deposit. So that's all happening now as well.
Awesome.
I got to meet my fiance's family, extended family, like aunts and uncles, cousins. It was a good trip for many reasons. But the hockey was definitely memorable. I was lucky enough to get seats on the glass for 2 of my games there, the game against the Sabres and the game against the Sharks. And my seats were right next to where Lindgren was celebrating that last second winner in regulation. And let me tell you, I criticize the Garden a lot because I think it's a snooze fest most of the time. But when you score a game winner in the final second of regulation, that beats any overtime winner unless it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final.
Yeah, I'm sure that you just had chills going through your body when that moment. I did
I
at
mean,
home, so I can only imagine being there.
I've heard the Garden loud for that Lindgren winner in the last second of the game, but I have to give Ranger fans as a whole credit for what happened in the Flyers game 2. As you remember, we'll get into that in a minute, but we had a 5-minute major penalty because of the Dryden Hunt incident.
Correct.
And we killed off the penalty. And when the moment the 5-minute penalty expired, the Garden chanted Igor, and it was louder than I've ever heard the Garden. Like it wasn't even sold out. Yeah, on paper those games are sold out, but a lot of season ticket holders don't really show up for games. I think it was like 80% full, 80% capacity, but it was loud. The Garden was loud for those 2 games. It was a great experience. And yeah, I came home with some souvenirs too. I got a stick from Alexis Lafreniere during warmups. Kako gave me one of his sticks as well, and some jerseys that I picked up along the way. Luckily, you know, I'm lucky enough to interact with these kids, and you know, they still remember me from years ago. So that was a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm looking forward to going back to the US probably in March. I'm planning on going to the Ranger games in Minnesota and St. Louis.
Okay, nice.
But until then, I'm in Dublin, so we'll the regular prospect updates will be continuing from now on. It was a little bit, you know, I was still doing the daily schedules and recaps, but not at the 7 a.m. hour every morning. Because you know I don't get up at 6 to work on a prospect schedule for almost an hour. So yeah, now everything is going back to normal. But yeah, great trip.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, you and I going back and forth throughout the entire experience. You know, I haven't been active on Rigger's Twitter each day. Some days I saw that you got a stick, and I was like, "How this happened?" So I'm hitting up your DMs right away and all these things. Yeah, no, it really looked like, Steven, when you entered, you know, New York NYC going to these games, as not just for, you know, the Ranger players, but also when you went to the Wolfpack game as well. It felt like it was the uncle coming back home that everyone had to see and have an interaction with. It was very, very cool. You know, to say
Yeah.
I'm jealous is an understatement, but you know, that's why I'm grateful to have you as a friend.
Yeah,
And a
I have
co-host.
to say before I forget, there were guys that approached me during games, you know, and I'm just a normal guy, you know. I don't work for MSG. I'm not like Steve Veliket or whatever. So when I walk into the Garden and a person approaches me and, you know, talks to me and says hi, or they want to take a picture or whatever, that's always great to hear. And you know, some people ask me when the next recording with Wardy is going to be, etc. So it's interesting that I get recognized more in New York City than in Dublin, where I live.
That tells you that there's a drastic difference in the Rangers market for obvious reasons,
Yes,
right?
yes. But no, it was a great time, and like the interactions I've had with people that I've never met before. You know, people that recognize me from Twitter because they follow me there, or they recognize me from our show on YouTube. It's always fun to interact with people, and you know, just take like the 1 minute out of my day to stop, shake their hands, take a picture, and etc. So
Yeah.
thanks everyone for reaching out to me when they saw me, and yeah, it was a fun experience.
I mean, rightfully so, especially with given the fact that you're all the way from Dublin right now. You know, you got to try to take the advantage if you're someone that follows someone like yourself, you know, and that's the same way that I felt. And I'm not trying to get on tangent here, but like I said, we have a lot to get into as to what is the build up to this episode and talking about, you know, interactions. That's something that I've been nothing short of grateful for this past year. I mean, you know, I went to Pittsburgh, I went to New York, I went to Philly, went to Boston, every single place that I went for Mets games this past year. There, at least multiple people every single time, dozens even, going up to me, either wanting a photo, have a conversation, those type of things. They're just surreal because you and I both, we're just fans. We do something that we thoroughly enjoy, covering our favorite teams respectively. And, it's nothing short of, really, really touching when people go out of their way to do those things, knowing that the support is very much there. And I know Steven's grateful for it, and so am I. Beyond grateful. It's truly an understatement. So thank you, everyone, for that as well. But to kind of recap on your trip as well, you'll be getting into those games in particular because I think you have better insight than I do, given the fact that you were actually in attendance. But I did want to share quickly on my stance part of the reason why we haven't recorded in so long. And that was also because, not just because of Steven's hectic schedule, celebrating his first actual Thanksgiving in the US with his family. But also on my end, for those of you that aren't aware with baseball, there's a lockout right now. And this is the first lockout since 1994. There's only been 9 and it's over 160-year history. So this doesn't happen very often. And leading up to this lockout, there was essentially a deadline because of it, where you had to do free agent signings and trades because you can't do any of those moves at the MLB level during this lockout. And this very well could drag out even going up until the season next year, which is right around April. So it can go on for a very long time. And I, someone that covers the Mets daily, not just as my job, but of course as a passion and a hobby, had to be doing endless live streams and, Mets signing multiple players. And once it was a historic offseason so far in Mets land, if you're a baseball fan. So that's why I was so busy as well. I mean, Steven, to put things in comparison, think about the Mets signing, pardon me, not the Mets. Think about the Rangers signing, 3 top 6 forwards in one day and also getting themselves, and either a elite goaltender, because I think a goaltender is the best way to compare to a pitcher, all in the span of just, 48 to 72 hours. So that's a lot of stuff going on, having to cover during that span. So it was hectic in baseball land. So that was what was happening on my front as well. But I was watching these Ranger games as they were transpiring, and yeah, they were nothing short of awesome.
Technically, the Rangers, in hindsight, the Rangers did that like in 2019, to be honest, when they they basically signed Panarin, Shasturkin, and Fox all in the same offseason.
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
I know what you mean. It's
imagine being in a spot where I live stream usually when news happens like that. So say it's like 5 or 6 o'clock, Mets signed a player. Okay, I go out. I have to come back home when I'm like a half hour away because they signed another player. Okay, I go out after that, try to pick up dinner at around midnight. On my drive back home, they sign a third player, and he's the most significant of them all. So it's just a whirlwind of things that happen in a very short period of time in baseball. And if you guys are baseball fans, then you know very well what transpired leading up to the lockout for your respective clubs. But that's what's happening in both of our ends.
The only thing I know about baseball is what I see pop up on my timeline on Twitter. A lot of my followers, a lot of people that I follow also follow either the Yankees or the Mets. So the names vaguely sound familiar to me, but I don't follow baseball, so I'm not that much into it.
Yeah, we'll get you to a game at Citi Field next year and see what that experience is like for you, or Yankee Stadium, because I know your fiance is probably a Yankees fan, right?
Yeah, but I've been to Citi Field once, but it was for the Winter Classic. So
you can't compare.
Because I also like to leave Citi Field, myself and not needing an ambulance with hypothermia.
Yeah, exactly. What a story. And we won't get on that tangent. We talked about before, but
yeah,
I was in attendance too. Thankfully, I did not have the same outcome.
Baseball Citi Field is something I still want to do one day.
Yeah, I think you'll definitely get enjoyment, especially as a European who obviously isn't accustomed to following baseball on the norm. Even going out your way to watch hockey now that you live in Dublin too isn't necessarily the most common thing. So you're definitely going out your way to follow your teams, and I beyond respect that. But let's get into, folks, before we get into all these games. Like I said, it's an extended episode today, very laid back. We'll be taking questions towards the end of the live stream if you're watching live. But let's talk about around the league for a second, because a lot's happened in just the past couple of days, including today. And it's been a whirlwind of coaching and front office changes in the AHL, given the amount of teams that have done so poorly to this point. And it started off with the Montreal Canadiens, as we know, parting ways with Marc Bergevin and, everyone involved there, their entire front office, and hiring a former New York Ranger front office member, that being in Jeff Gordon, who's now controlling everything of hockey operations for them. So, Steven, what was kind of your initial reaction to see Gordon, Neither of us have ill will with Jeff whatsoever. We were upset to see him go originally when everything transpired. I'm wishing him nothing but the best with the Habs now. Definitely a little surprising to see them go a little bit of a different route. Yes, they're normally notorious for having people that can, fluently speak French. He's trying to work on it, he said, which I thought was pretty neat. But what was your thoughts on that first ordeal and, the dominoes to soon follow with other clubs?
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Jeff Gorton found a new job within a couple of months. I mean, the guy worked with the Boston Bruins for 12 years, with the New York Rangers for 13 years. And when you look at his resume, he worked his way up. He started as a scout, worked his way up to assistant GM. He was interim GM in Boston, then, assistant GM in New York, general manager, and then now he's president of hockey operations, I think, in Montreal.
Yeah, he's controlling everything now.
So he basically has the role Davidson had in New York the last 2 years. It's a logical choice. Gordon is one of the better options out there if you're looking for someone to lead your organization. I know Ranger fans aren't. There are Ranger fans who are very critical of Jeff Gordon, but I think he did a great job both in Boston and in New York. And I think around the league, they see that as well. So good on him. I don't know if they're going to change their coaches as well. But if they do...
I think that'll be after this season.
Yeah, if they do, there's a coach available that speaks French who Gordon has worked with before in Elaine Vino. So who knows?
Yeah, exactly. So let's get AV now, and then we'll cap off with the Canucks here on just some moves that have transpired. So earlier today, Elaine Vino was fired as the head coach for the Philadelphia Flyers. And it feels like yesterday Flyers fans were raving about the hire. And I found it comical to begin with. And don't get me wrong, AV definitely dominated the Rangers, for a decent span when he first came in with the Flyers against the Rangers during David Quinn's time as head coach. But, outside of their first year, there really wasn't a whole lot going on. And it just, I found it funny because there were endless similarities. And this is coming from someone that is a casual. I'm not watching the Flyers on any given day because it's actually blacked out where I reside because I'm closer to Philly than New York. So I only watch highlights and things of that nature. But from all the complaints I've seen, it really felt like he was going down a slippery slope, like what he was in his, the latter half of his tenure in New York. And, I said on Twitter earlier today, there's a reason why in my senior year of high school, I did my senior essay on why the Rangers should fire Elaine Vigneault. And I got myself, I think, an A- on that. A couple months later, AV did end up getting fired by the Rangers. So it's kind of funny just seeing how things have transpired. Flyers fans going through a lot of the same emotions that Rangers fans now have. And yes, AV is now available on the open market. And it would not be surprising in the slightest if he finds himself landing a job rather soon.
Oh, look, the NHL coaching carousel is a running joke. It's a running joke for a reason, because NHL teams are more likely to hire a coach that has failed than to hire a coach that hasn't had a shot yet.
Correct.
And I think, I may be wrong, but I think in the next couple of years, we won't be seeing a coach making the jump from college to the NHL. And I think the main reason for that is, unfortunately, David Quinn. The way he failed in New York, the way players are now coming out about it, I think that's going to put off a lot of presidents, general managers, and owners of hiring another college coach, because the one before that, Dave Haxtell, wasn't a big success in Philly either.
Yep.
You had Jim Montgomery, who was a good coach in Dallas, but he had some personal issues. So, yeah, I mean, it's the NHL hasn't had a good track record in recent years in hiring coaches from the college level. So I think guys like Elaine Vigneault and even John Tortorella, they're still going to get offers. We'll see how long it takes for Elaine Vigneault. When he was fired by the Rangers, he took a year off. But if he hadn't, I'm still convinced he would have found a team within 3-4 months, because that's just how the NHL works.
Absolutely. And, talking about another team that AV was notorious for coaching, which really got his resume starting to build up after his tenure in Montreal, that's with the Vancouver Canucks, as the Canucks have partnered with, Benning, their GM, also Green, their coach, everyone involved. So they're doing a clean sweep. These are all teams that have been underperforming this year. As we know, the Flyers are 7th in the Metropolitan. They've only won 1 game in their past 10. If we go to the Habs, they've only won 2 in their past 10, as they're 7th in the Atlantic. And when you also look at the Vancouver Canucks, they are dead last in the Pacific and have won 3 of their last 10. So all these teams struggling to start this year, kind of crazy. With some of them, even Vancouver. I mean, Vancouver, I can understand why they have their struggles, but they're still underperforming. When you look at teams also like the Montreal Canadiens, they go from, going all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals, and now they find themselves just absolutely abysmal for multiple reasons, including not having, one of the best goaltenders in the world in Carey Price. Definitely doesn't help their cause, but they've had a lot of issues. So it'll be really interesting to see how everything is addressed on those respective fronts. But yes, when you look at guys like AV as well, wouldn't be surprising if he finds himself maybe potentially going to Montreal or Vancouver. Again, I don't have any insight on this, so don't go at me in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube or anything. I'm just saying because I know that Marc Bergevin has already been connected to the Canucks as they have shown some level of interest in potentially hiring him as a GM, which would be really something special to talk about. Really a good example of the carousel, not just with coaching, but also when it comes to front office as a whole. It's all the same kind of deal that's been going on. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, those are the latest moves around the NHL, Steven. So any final comment before we get into the past 7 games for the Rangers?
Since the Islanders last won, they have as many points as NHL coaches have been fired.
Yeah, that's crazy. And there's a lot of reasons for look, when you have the amount of teams that they had, like out with COVID, dealing with injuries to players, I should say, there are reasons to justify for their lack of success, but it still doesn't denounce the fact that, it's bad. It's hard to not revel in it.
I joke about the Islanders a lot. They've had injuries, they've had COVID, and I think that's the main reason Barry Trotz is not on the hot seat. If they were performing this way with a healthy team, I think Barry Trotz would have been more uncomfortable. But for now, I think Barry Trotz is gonna stay the coach of the New York Islanders. And it's still only early December. A couple of years ago, the St. Louis Blues were a bottom team in December.
Yep.
And then they went on all the way to win it. So who knows what's gonna happen? But I for one, am happy that the Rangers are playing better. And this is a conversation I've had with people. I was critical of them early on, even though they were winning games. Now they're still winning games, but they're playing better. They're playing more sustainable hockey. And I think they have 10 wins in the last 11 games. Something
like that. They've won 6 straight now. That we'll be getting into more on the exact winning streak, but we'll be getting into the individual games right about now. But to kind of just touch on what you were saying, it's kind of unfortunate. I don't really think there's much of a connection here, but this has been something that has built up, shortly following Sammy Blaze's season-ending injury. Because last time that we spoke a couple weeks ago, that's one of the topics that we had. So by no means do I think that they really go in line with each other, but it is kind of interesting to see the route that the Rangers have gone now over the past couple of weeks, which again, if you're looking at performance-wise, games 17 through 23 now, as many of you guys probably watch all those games already, as we'll be recapping, was really impressive. Yeah. They weren't all pretty wins, but they got wins when they need to. And now the Rangers find themselves among the MLB, not the MLB, see, I'm in my baseball mind, among the NHL elite right now.
My only concern before we dive into this is that in the 11 games they've played where they've won 10, they've only played 3 high-ranking teams.
Yes, and that's been a concern of mine as well. I've been aware of that.
Panthers, who they beat 4-3, the Toronto Maple Leafs, where they lost 2-1 in Toronto, and then the Boston Bruins, who we beat on Black Friday 5-2 in Boston. All the other teams, and I'll just list them: Columbus Blue Jackets, New Jersey Devils, Montreal Canadiens, Buffalo Sabres, New York Islanders, Philadelphia Flyers, San Jose Sharks, and Chicago Blackhawks aren't playoff teams.
Yep.
That's my only concern. It's nice to have this hot streak. It's nice to rack up the wins early, but there is a little bit of a concern. And in the coming weeks, you have Chicago, which is still easy, and then you have Colorado, which is a tough opponent, and then Buffalo, Nashville, Colorado, Arizona. But then at the end of December, that's when it really gets tough, when you play the Vegas Golden Knights, the Florida Panthers, the Lightning twice, the Oilers, then the Golden Knights again.
The Rangers' schedule is really not in favor of them the second half this year at all. They haven't even played Carolina yet. Like, they got a lot of teams to face still.
The stretch around Christmas and New Year's is going to be telling us a whole lot more about how good this Rangers team is.
Absolutely. And it's great. And in hindsight, at least, it's going to be perfect time leading into the trade deadline if the Rangers do feel that they want to address in a certain area. But let's just dive in. Like I said, into these games. I know that some of these are a little far behind. I know many of you guys even forgot about them now, but we got to recap on them because we haven't talked about them since our last episode. And to really my final stance on what you proposed about being concerned, I shouldn't say I'm concerned because the Rangers have been playing good hockey. I think it's just a matter of they've been playing good hockey, but they haven't been fully tested yet. Let's see how they're going to look when they're actually tested among the teams that are going to be a big problem for the Rangers. Are they going to succeed? Are they going to fail? Are they going to kind of be up and down? That we're going to find out that rather shortly, but it's good knowing that the Rangers are continuously beating teams that they're supposed to beat and doing it rather impressively in a lot of the different scenarios here. But let's get into the first game. As we know, this is the only loss that we actually have over the past 7 games. So we won't really get into too much with it. That was, of course, against the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Rangers lost 2-1 in this game. This one was not a pretty game for the Rangers at all. There really isn't too much to get into it. This was, I felt a lot of similarities between the last time the Rangers and the Leafs played. The Leafs dominated in a lot of ways offensively on this one. Even though the Rangers were a little bit more balanced, but they struggled so terribly in the faceoff dot that this was actually one where it was justified as to why the Rangers weren't going to win. Like, they had little to no puck possession in a lot of different routes. Yes, they got some good opportunities. They were only outshot 30-28, but I mean, when you lose 80% of faceoffs in a game, naturally that's going to have some level of impact on your play and the actual puck possession you have. Giveaways were Rangers 8 to the Leafs 19, but the Leafs had a lot of offense going. Igor Shasturkin had a great game. Morgan Riley, though, got 2 goals in this one. He got his second and then his third of the year. First was in the first period, and then the second was halfway through the second period. The Rangers did get a goal from Dryden Hunt, which I'm trying to think. No, that was the Boston game I'm thinking of that we'll get into where he actually broke the camera. But Dryden Hunt got the lone goal for the Rangers. This was his first of the season, assisted by Strome and Kakko. But yeah, that's really all she wrote. It wasn't a terrible game when it came to Rangers' effort here, but it was one of those where just offensively they could not get enough going. Their goaltender was doing a really strong job for the Leafs end. And yeah, faceoffs just absolutely murdered the Rangers in this one. It wasn't even remotely close.
Yeah, the Rangers only showed up for 20 minutes in that game. The first 40 minutes, they were nowhere to be found. The third period, they played really well. It just wasn't enough to overcome the 2-goal deficit. And I think, if I remember correctly, it was 17.6% on faceoffs or 18% on faceoffs.
They were 20%.
No, it was low. It was lower than that.
Then they rounded it on the NHL's website.
I looked it up. In the salary cap era, it was the second lowest league-wide face-off percentage by a team in a single game.
The Rangers are second to last in the league in face-offs, by the way. For
Yeah,
anyone that's wondering. So that's still something that they very much need to address.
I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but the Rangers have not finished a full season with a face-off percentage over 50 since 2008-2009.
I know. It's crazy.
It's been an issue for many, many years. Unfortunately, we lost in Toronto. Not a shame, though. Toronto is one of the best teams in the league.
Yep.
Not going to lose sleep over that. They were the way they lost, yes, but the fact that you lose a 1-goal game in Toronto, that's not terrible.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Definitely, they had the effort in this one, just fell short. And again, I'd rather they be in a 1-goal game where they lose, even though the faceoffs were horrid, versus it being a blowout or anything of that nature. So they hunt around the entire game. Unfortunately, just can pot one more. But that was the only negative for basically 2 weeks. So let's get into the positives. And that starts with the first of 3 games that you were physically in attendance with, that being the Hockey Fights Cancer Night on November 21st. So take me through everything that transpired there.
Yeah, I mean, the game started off okay for the Rangers. They conceded the first goal by Rasmus Asplund. Kreider tied it up on the power play, as he does. Kreider has been a beast. We'll get into that in a minute. How his scoring is historical. The Rangers were trailing 3 times in this game. They were trailing 1-0, 2-1, and 4-3. The second period had, I think, 6 goals.
Yeah, there were. Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was actually insane how many
It was
goals
crazy.
transpired.
Kako scored a goal. My fiance wanted to record the stadium announcer announcing the goal. Instead, she got 2 Buffalo Sabres goals on video.
Mm-hmm.
That's how fast it was. 12:07, Kako scored. 12:57, 50 seconds later, Tage Thompson scored, tied it up. And then 15 seconds after that, Rasmus Dahlin scored to give them the lead. So in a 15-second span, you give up a 3-2 lead and you're down 4-3. And that was very deflating. And then the crazy thing is, Keandre Miller, like 20 seconds later, ties it up again. There were like I think there were 4 goals in a minute and a half.
Yeah, let's see. The final goal was at the 13:29 mark, and the first one by Kaka was at 12:07. So yeah, it was literally just about a minute.
And
minute and 20 seconds.
My brother-in-law's wife was texting us when we were at the game, and she was watching the game on TV, and she's like, "Am I watching a highlight reel or is this the actual game?" Because 4 goals in 2 minutes, that's almost highlight reel stuff.
Exactly. It's when I'm watching the recaps again on AHL for
exactly.
5 minutes.
Those 8 or 9 minute videos on YouTube the next morning.
Yep.
And then one of my favorite moments ever at the Garden, like, just to clarify, I've never been to a playoff game at the Garden, so this was probably one of the more memorable moments for me being in attendance. Ryan Lindgren scoring with 0.4 seconds left. The last time I remember the Rangers cutting it that close in regulation was Brad Richards in Phoenix 9 years ago or 10 years ago. But being there in the building when it happened was absolutely amazing. And I'll take it to the grave. Scoring a game winner in the final second of regulation will always be better than an overtime winner unless it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final.
You know what that goal reminds me of a little bit? Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Michael Grabner score a game winner with seconds left against Columbus? I think it was in Columbus.
But I think that was still with a couple of seconds left, not like the final second of the game.
Okay, but it was still though, not final second, but that was like the closest next thing that's popping in my head.
It's very deflating when you concede a goal in the final seconds, but to concede it with 0.4 seconds, the worst thing is Sabres were already wanted to go to the locker room.
Yep.
But they still had to take the face off.
And then they held it on the boards, and then we saw Foxy do the awesome play to get through, and then bam.
No, it was 0.4 seconds. It was just a face off. The puck dropped and it was over.
No. I'm saying the goal. What led up to the
Lindgren. Oh, the goal, yeah. So the goal, yeah. I mean, out of all people, Ryan Lindgren, I think that was only his second goal this season. But the play by Adam Fox, if this guy doesn't win another Norris this year, then this shit is
damn shame. Exactly.
I know everyone's talking about Cale Makar, but Adam Fox is on another level. And the player that he reminds me of, the way he plays and the dominance he shows on the ice, Nicholas Lidstrom.
Yep.
That's who he reminds me of when I see him on the ice. But the stuff he does, it's one thing to have the awareness and to see and to process the game at such a high speed, but to then also have the talent and the technique to pull off the moves, that doesn't happen often. And from a defenseman even. Crazy game, 5-4 win. That game had everything you'd want. Everything you'd look for when you attend a game. Probably one of the best experiences I've had at an NHL game.
Oh yeah, that was it. When that happened, I thought of you right away. You were sitting at the glass for that one, so I saw you on TV multiple times. I didn't feel like reaching out to you because I'm like, you're busy about the game, but I saw you. I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize till over halfway through the game that you were staying that close. Mm-hmm. I don't know why it didn't hit my head, but I was like, oh my God, Steven, you went to the perfect game. And that was only one of 3 really good games that you got a chance to witness. So, Rangers, again, they outshot the Sabres in that one, 36-22. They dominated. They lost in the faceoff dot per usual, but they execute on the power play from Chris Kreider. I'm sure we'll get on another tangent about Kreider once we're wrapping up all these games because, oh my goodness, Chris Kreider. Blocks 15-10 in favor of the Sabres. hits, Rangers just dominated 34-16, and giveaways were just about even at 8 and 7 apiece. So, yeah, what's your closing thoughts on this big win for the Rangers against Buffalo?
I mean, it was a sloppy game, but they got the win. And against a team that they should have beaten. I wish it wasn't as close as it was, but as a fan, I wanted it to be like a. By the way, before I forget to say this, if Shasturkin's in net, I think this game ends 4-2.
I agree. Yeah, Igor made some magnificent saves.
Georgiev was in net for the first 2 periods, and then they pulled him at the start of the third when the game was tied 4-4.
And I thought that was it was really refreshing to see Gallant know that, even this early in the season, this is a must-win game. There's nothing to justify this kind of performance against.
It was a great move. It was a great move, and it was the other thing that unfortunately cannot be fixed during the game because there are no spare defensemen on the bench, but Jared Tenorti does not belong on an NHL team.
No. We've been there, done that already.
Patrick Nemeth is struggling enough as it is, but when you pair him with Jared Tenorti, they both look like Stu Bickle.
They both look like Stu Bickle?
They both defend like Stu Bickle when they're paired together.
Yeah,
they're like Dumb and Dumber on defense.
The forward or the defenseman.
They drag each other down. And Nemeth isn't. I'm not a big Nemeth fan as it is, but when he plays with Tenorti, it's even worse.
Yeah, no, it's 2 negatives.
Nils Lundqvist should have played that game because when Nils Lundqvist plays, Patrick Nemeth is a better player on the ice.
You had no idea how pissed off I was that he wasn't playing. Because I was concerned if you weren't going to see a game again, especially thankfully you did. But I was more bothered by you not getting to see him more than anything else.
Imagine me flying all the way to New York, only going to 1 game, and then Nils Lundqvist being a healthy scratch in favor of Jared.
I know. When I saw it, I was like, you've got to be shit. I'm like, this is Steven's luck. I'm like, oh my goodness gracious. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. So you got to go to a couple more games. But again, to wrap things up on that one. Not a pretty game by any stretch for the Rangers, but good move by Gallant in the third. And for the people that were wondering, why Zibanejad and Gallant, were yapping at each other at the bench. I know that this happened over a week ago now, but he did come out and say that it was because of Mika being bothered by, I think, a call or a missed call, one of the two by the ref. And then Gallant was just being adamant about saying, drop it. There's no point to drag it on. We got the win. Let's go on and,
I think this was after the Lindgren goal with 0.4 seconds to go.
Yes. Yeah, he went right to the bench, and him and Gallant weren't looking too positive with each other. And everyone was like, what happened?
Yeah, and this was a good call by Gallant because complaining to the refs is not going to make a difference. But if the refs give you a penalty for whatever reason, that next face-off is in your zone.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point, too.
And 0.4 seconds is not much, but goals have been scored straight from the face-off circle in 0.2 seconds. So, Gallant saying knock it off, great call. The moment the puck drops at center ice, it's not going to get to the goal in half a second.
Yep.
Take the win. And then against the Islanders, Kreider, for me at least, etched his name in Rangers history as the 3rd fastest Ranger all time to 15 goals.
Yeah, let's get into this game because I don't know about you, but as I was watching it, I was bothered by that first period a little bit. I felt like throughout a good portion of the game, the Rangers were playing, to their competition. It's something that they struggled with in the past.
I don't think we appreciate enough the fact that the Rangers were the team scoring for a change in the first 30 seconds.
No, I know. We'll get into that shortly, but let's talk about the build-up here, right? Let's talk about the foreplay before we get to the fun stuff. But this game, only 21 shots apiece, not a lot of offensive creation going on. The Rangers got dominating the face-off dot again, 58-20, 42%. Rangers did get a lone power play goal, and again, thank you so much, Chris Kreider, 14th of the year, 30 seconds in, assisted by Stromer and Fox. That was awesome, and that really just opened the floodgates for the Rangers in this one. They didn't look back. Offensively, Kevin Rooney then went on to score later in the second period, assisted by Gaudreau and Reeves. Then on to the third period, and Andy Andrioff. If you guys don't know Andy, he actually, I'm pretty sure he was the captain for a good period of time for the Phantoms, which is the affiliate for the Philadelphia Flyers. I've seen Andy play plenty because I don't reside far from the Phantoms Arena. But yeah, it was kind of funny because I know that he's been playing for them, given all the COVID and injuries that they've been dealing with. Was with the Flyers as well. I think he was even with the Kings last year too, if my memory's not mistaken. He scores, just around 4 minutes in, and then Kevin Rooney gets his second of the game. It's just Ryan Reeves. My goodness, we'll talk about reverse roles in this one.
I know.
Ryan
Reeves channeling his inner Panarin.
I know. My good Ryan Reeves, first of all, had a nice assist on the first goal for Rooney, his secondary assist. Then we got ourselves Rooney's second goal. It was almost I think it was right around a 2-on-1. He did a nice drag, and then I believe he dragged it and did a backhand pass right across the crease and got Rooney. Oh my goodness gracious. It was beautiful. And then for Zibanejad to then go on and score his second and the fourth and final goal for the Rangers in this one, his 15th of the year, assisted by Zibanejad and Kakko. And then we got a little scrum by, Alexis Lafreniere and JG Pajot, the two French Canadians going at it. So Reeves said in his post game, talking about reverse roles, he felt like it was like the multiverse, like with Spider-Man, like all these different things are going on. I'm the one doing the dangles and the nice passes, and Alexis going in and having, a fight. Even though it wasn't much of a fight, it was funny because
that was after Adam Fox got a roughing call for defending, I think, Lindgren.
Yes. Yeah, because JG did, what was it? Was it a slew foot or was it a hit? It was.
I think it was a high hit to the face.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep, I think that's exactly what it was. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Just a crazy game. Awesome win for the Rangers. Again, wasn't the prettiest in the beginning, but once it got on a rhythm, thank you, Chris Kreider, my captain. Rangers got out hit 31-23, blocked 16-9 in their favor, and giveaways right around the same at 8 and 9 apiece. But yeah, what's your closing thoughts on this one? This was a huge game. Yeah. Even though it was against the depleted Islanders, they absolutely need to go in there and win. And, they continue to add on wins before the Islanders even have yet to get a win in their new arena.
Rangers still have more wins arena than the Islanders. Yeah. And until last night, they had the same amount of goals at the US Arena. But their 4-1 win was a big statement for the Rangers. They've struggled against the Islanders the last couple of years, especially on the road. So to come away with a 4-1 win is great. And that second Chris Kreider goal in the third period, it was his 15th of the season, giving him 15 goals in his first 19 games to start the season. And I looked it up. It's the third fastest in Rangers history. Only Bill Cook in 1931 and Don Murdoch in 1976 got 15 goals quicker than Chris Kreider.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, he's just been off to a tremendous pace.
Not even Jaromir Jagr had more goals in his. Not even Jaromir Jagr was faster to 15 goals in that amazing season where he had 54.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
It is. And I think Chris Kreider is on 16 now, I think.
Pardon?
I think Chris Kreider at the moment has 16 goals already.
Yeah, because he has 19 points.
And it's December 6th. He's going to hit 30, right?
You'd have to, as long as he doesn't go on like an entire month span of only getting like 2 goals.
Injury. Like as long as there's no season-ending injury, he should get there.
Knock on wood. Doing that right now. But let's jump into the next game. Because this was probably, I got to say, out of all the games that transpired, I think this one is either close to, if not, my favorite. For
the most surprising win, in my opinion.
Yes. A big statement win in this one. And lead the way, Steven.
I mean, the Rangers are historically not that great on Black Friday. The last time I think they beat the Boston Bruins on Black Friday was back in the 70s. So I didn't have a lot of faith in this team. They're historically bad on faceoffs. You go up against the Boston Bruins with Patrice Bergeron. I'm shocked Patrice Bergeron didn't finish with 100% on faceoffs.
Oh my goodness. He's just, that's literally why I've always admired him. Not just for, his great two-way game, but the man's a lock every single time he's at the dot. You have no chance.
Exactly. Let me quickly look it up if you don't mind. I cannot find it here. Anyway, so the Rangers, they trail early because of a Craig Smith goal. And then with 6 seconds to go in the period, the Rangers like to score late in the period. 6 seconds to go, Ryan Strome ties it up. And honestly, I didn't think the Rangers had anything to complain about in the first period, going into the locker room tied 1-1. The Bruins were the better team. So going into the locker room tied up was great. Second period starts. Bergeron makes it 2-1. Huge defensive lap on the Rangers. Don't want to go into it too much, but when you have a guy like Bergeron on the ice, he's going to take advantage of it. And then Dryden Hunt ties it up with his second goal of the season, where he breaks the camera or breaks the little cover in front of the camera.
For the camera. It was awesome scene.
Yeah. That was a pretty cool scene. Assisted by Lindgren and Fox. That was Hunt's second point already, because he assisted on the Ryan Strome goal together with Artemi Panarin. And then the third period, Panarin scores, assisted by Gauthier and Strome, before Lafreniere makes it 4-2, assisted by Gauthier again, and Adam Fox getting his second point of the game. And then an empty net goal by Jacob Trouba with an assist for Patrick Nemeth, making it the first game where the Rangers have 5 different goal scorers in Boston since 2001.
Wow.
So that scoring 5 goals is great, but having 5 different goal scorers makes it even better. I think overall the Rangers really, really pulled this win out of the fire in the third period. And once that Panarin goal happened, I had a good feeling about us winning, because there was only like 9 minutes left. I didn't see the Bruins scoring 2 more goals against us. There was, of course, an incident near the end of the game where Panarin threw his glove at Brett Marchand. All
right. I need to go on a rant, Steven. I need to go on a rant.
You go first. You go first.
All right. First of all, hilarious. Everything about this was just phenomenal. Oh, yeah. Like let's talk. And of course, then you have you Boston Bruins writers going out of their way to say, oh, this is basically malicious. He needs to be fined. Artemi actually ends up getting the max $5,000 fine for throwing a, pardon my French, fucking glove at Brad Marchand, probably one of, if not the most dirty player in the league. I shouldn't say the most dirty. He's definitely up there, though. We all know who Brad is. Shouldn't come as a surprise.
Did you hear what Brendan Dubinsky said afterwards?
Yes. So you can touch on that. But for him to get fined, it just shows you the further incompetence, to the point where it isn't even worth arguments. Like we've exacerbated all of our emotions and then some on the Tom Wilson incident, and just the amount of hypocrisy that goes on in the NHL when it comes to, okay, who is deserving of, this fine or suspension. It never goes in line with what exactly should be happening. So for Panarin to get a $5,000 fine, Wilson, like it really boggles my mind how they will compare something like that to the most malicious things that have happened in recent NHL history. And, no suspensions given. That's really all I have to say. I was a lot more heated in the moment, on that Black Friday post Thanksgiving. Right now, I'm okay. Just ridiculous. Just simply ridiculous. I expect nothing less from this league. Pure incompetence when it comes to actually trying to hold players accountable for things they either do right or wrong, and goes directly in hand with who they're facing. You can't tell me otherwise.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm looking it up now. If people have their phones or their laptops open. Hold on, let me get this.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna go over just the statistics as a whole from this game. So Rangers were outshot by Boston 36-31. They lost in the faceoff dot 43% to 57. Bergeron was 64% at the dot as well. I'm sure that's what you're looking for. So Bergeron was far above average. Neither team scored on the power play. Hits favored the Rangers 23-21. Blocks heavy favored the Rangers, laying the body out 17-4. And giveaways, the Rangers have more giveaways 10-5. Ryan Strome, with the goal by Panarin and Hunt. Then Hunt by Lindgren and Fox. And he went on Panarin, Gauthier, Strome with the apples. Alexi with his 5th of the year, which was a very nice goal by Lafreniere, too. Let's not forget that. Got himself his 5th of the year by Gauthier and Fox. And then Trouba with the final one, which was an empty netter, which was awesome. And that was assisted by Nemeth. Yeah, just crazy. Just craziness that happened in this game.
If people have their laptops or phones open, Google NHL Wheel of Justice.
What's that?
NHL Wheel of Justice.
Okay.
It's nonsense, but it's funny. And you'll probably get a better punishment. You get a better feel for an actual punishment out of this app than you get out of the Department of Player Safety.
Oh, because
this is the same Department of Player Safety that didn't even fine Sidney Crosby for throwing Martin Fehérváry headfirst into the boards.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, NHL officiating is. I think NHL officiating is weak. I don't want to say it's terrible. It's weak. It's inconsistent, but it happens in real time. You're on the ice. There's a lot of things happening. You make a judgment call based on what you see with your own eyes. I can sort of understand missing a call here or there, but the Department of Player Safety has hours and hours and hours to go over footage, and they still get it wrong. That's just terrible. But hey, that's what you get when you put a goon in charge of player safety.
I know. Shout out to Peros. Ridiculous.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to say too much about it, but it's a terrible decision to put a goon in charge of player safety. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
Before I make comparisons, they're going to regret later on.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. But
anyway, so after the Boston game, we were supposed to play the Islanders on Sunday.
And then they were finally able to get out of that game. They tried for the last time they played the Rangers, but the NHL said no. And then they had further outbreak, and more people just were not able to play to the point where it was justified for them not actually match up against the Rangers.
Mm-hmm. So then the next game was against the Flyers. Got to see Nils Lundkvist finally in person. And guess what? He assists on the first goal of the game.
You were jumping for joy, I'm sure.
Jacob Trouba on the power play, assisted by Kaapo Kakko and Nils Lundkvist.
Oh my goodness. It's all your worlds colliding at once.
Can it get any better than that? Oh my God. What a goal. And I was just happy that our second power play unit was getting a goal.
That's another good point.
And I was talking to people around me. I said, see, this is what happens when you give your second unit more than 10 seconds.
Yep.
Because that has been my gripe all along last season. Every time the second unit came on, it was 10 seconds left on the power play. But now,
speaking of gripes, once continue what you're saying. Just remind me that I need to talk about the power play for a minute once we wrap these up.
Now under Gallant, once there's a minute left, if the puck goes back into our zone, they switch it up. And I love it. You give your second power play unit a chance. And the second power play unit has Trouba, Lundkvist, Kakko, I think Hedl, and Lafreniere.
Now you're getting me confused.
I think Lafreniere, Hedl, Kakko, and then Lundkvist, Trouba on the back end. That's the second unit.
Okay.
And Kakko quietly getting 8 points in a 7-game span. That's a good stretch for him.
Yep.
Dryden Hunt getting his third goal of the season a little later in the period, assisted by Panarin and Fox. Then we have that ridiculous 5-minute penalty, the major power play where Dryden Hunt gets a game misconduct and a charging penalty. And somehow the Rangers hold on. And they don't concede a goal in the 5 minutes, and that's when the Igor chance happened, and it was glorious. It was a glorious chant. And after the game, Igor said, "At that moment, I have to remind myself not to cry."
Mm-hmm.
Just imagine what that does to a goalie's confidence.
Oh my goodness!
The goalie he looked up to ever since he was a kid had his own chant at the Garden. Like Henrik Lundqvist was his idol when he was a kid.
I know. People tend to forget that. Yeah, it's really amazing how everything's come full circle with him.
The reason he played with number 30 in Russia is because of Henrik Lundqvist.
Yep.
And now he has his own chant at the same arena from the same fans, and that has to be a great feeling for him. Second period, 34 seconds in. Again, early goal in the period. Chris Kreider does it again.
Son of a bitch. He did it again.
16th goal of the season, assisted by Kakko and Zibanejad. Kakko with a 2-point game. And one of the nicer goals of the season. Great goal by Kreider. Great goal by that line. And I think the top line with Kakko is finally gelling a bit.
Yes.
At first, I wasn't happy with the line changes that they were when Blade went out with the injury, but Kakko is gelling now with Zibanejad and Kreider. Morgan Frost makes it 3-1, and then the third period was sloppy. The Rangers were under pressure a lot, but they didn't concede a goal, and eventually Artemi Panarin adds the empty netter for a 4-1 win against the Flyers. overall, really solid game by the Rangers. And I kept saying to my fiance, there's no, like, in the first period, I'm like, there's no way we're losing this game. There's no way. She's like, shut up. I'm like, what? There's no way. And she's like, don't say that. And then I made it worse by saying, there's no such thing as a jinx.
That's so sacrilegious.
I know. And then I remember Kreider scoring the goal, and I go, ooh, 3-goal lead, most dangerous lead in hockey. Just shut up. And then
she gradually takes her rein off.
and then Frost scored the goal for the Flyers, and she looks at me, she's like, see? It's 3-1, nothing's gonna happen. But then we're under pressure for the whole freaking third period. So unbelievable.
This was just another window for the Rangers that thankfully you got to witness in person.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to know your thoughts on Dryden Hunt for a quick second, because I know that you were pretty critical of him, but rightfully so in the beginning.
No, I mean, I wasn't critical of Dryden Hunt. I was critical of
his usage
to put him in the top 6. I mean,
correct.
This is a kid that not too long ago played in the ECHL. But hey, that's what happens when you trade away Buchnevich and then you chase away Vitaly Kravtsov and then Sammy Blais is injured. Then your options are Barclay Goodrow or Dryden Hunt. If those are your options, then fine, go with Dryden Hunt. But yeah, he's been good. He's been, you know what? Dryden Hunt's a better hockey player than Colin Blackwell.
You think Hunt's a better player than Blackwell?
Yes. On the ice, Dryden Hunt is an analytics darling. You know, he does things on the ice that translate really well. Blackwell had a huge hot streak playing with Panarin and Strome, scored some very opportunistic goals, whereas Dryden Hunt's play, and I keep using the word, it's more sustainable. The way Dryden Hunt plays, I could see him play like this for 3, 4, 5 years. Whereas Colin Blackwell was just riding a hot streak that I don't think he'll be able to reproduce.
Yeah, I have to look up how Blackwell's doing this season. I have genuinely no idea.
He started injured, so I don't know if he's back yet, but he didn't play for the first couple of weeks. I think Dryden Hunt overall is just a better player for the Rangers. Unfortunate that he got that game misconduct. I'm happy it didn't result in a suspension.
Yeah.
Because with Greg McKeck on COVID protocol, it would have been an issue. They recalled Morgan Barron after that happened, but he didn't play because Dryden Hunt wasn't suspended.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm happy with Dryden Hunt. The guy that I'm really excited about and that we don't talk enough about is Kevin Rooney still.
Yeah, no, I agree. Kevin Rooney just keeps doing the right things.
I keep bringing him up all the time. I just feel that other people aren't talking enough about him. The way he plays. That fourth line with Strome and now Goodrow, I think is just a great fourth line. It's probably the best fourth line we've had since 2014 when we had Brian Boyle, Dominic Moore, and Derek Dorsett. Yeah,
no, I think so. The Rangers haven't had, and that's why I've always been such a heavy advocate of having the most balanced lines possible, because I was so impressed of AV's first year with the Rangers and utilizing them.
Yeah, and let's get into Ryan Reeves for a second. I don't want to talk about the fact that the Rangers never addressed the physical side of the game, because that's nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
The Rangers address the physical side of the game every year.
Yep.
They just never got a player that consistently contributed offensively as well.
That actually knows what to do instead of looking like a pylon on the ice.
Every year they addressed it. You know, they got Michael Bailey, they got Brendan Lemieux, they got Cody McLeod. But those players, aside from the physical aspect of the game, they didn't add anything else.
Nothing.
Ryan Reeves will not score 20 goals a season, but when you see him out there on the ice, he's making things happen. Mm-hmm. And he's also a very good locker room influence. He's a good voice in the locker room.
He's Igor's hype man.
I think Ryan Reeves is, if we would acquire Ryan Reeves 3 years ago, like Gorton wanted, I don't think we're having this conversation about being soft, and the Tom Wilson incident probably doesn't happen.
I agree with 100%. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
No, I agree with you.
Sometimes the players you need aren't available. You cannot force a general manager to trade the player you want.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is.
To recap this game, though, I just want to break down the further statistics for everybody.
Yeah.
The Rangers got outshot 28-34. Faceoffs were really close, but Flyers still won 51%. Rangers did get the lone power play goal in this one. They had 19 penalty minutes because of Hunt, 21 hits to the Flyers 11, 10 blocks to 15 in Rangers' favor, and Rangers had 19 giveaways to the Flyers 13. Well, the last time that the Flyers and Rangers meet up with Elaine Vino on the other side, with Philly, at least we'll see how long it takes him to get back in the coaching realm in the NHL. Like we said earlier in the episode, probably won't take that long, but no less, big win for the Rangers. Absolutely. Just continuing to beat competition that they should be beating. It's definitely refreshing to see the Rangers handling the Flyers that they have of recent versus, what was it? I want to say it was not the shortened season, but the year prior. The Rangers lost every single game against the Flyers in 2019-20, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So this is definitely a good feeling. I'm enjoying that a lot. But Steven, we got another game, and this game you were at too. So you got to take it away on this one.
Yeah, my final game before flying back home against the Sharks. Saw the Sharks the night before at the UBS Arena. I thought the Sharks were really good in that game. So I had some, to quote Elaine Vino, I had some good looks at that team at UBS. And I think Adin Hill deserves a lot of credit here. He kept his team in the game. This game should have been 4-4, 4-0, 5-0, so something like that. Adin Hill kept his team in the game with some amazing saves. In the end, they win it with a single goal by Ryan Strome on the power play, assisted by Adam Fox and Mika Zibanejad. Adam Fox again. I mean, the guy is great on defense, but offensively, he's chipping in too. He has 25 points in 23 games.
I know. And I want to touch on this. I'm going to touch on now in regards to just power play. Like, we'll get into more on Ryan Strome and how he's done after, we go over these games, because I want to really emphasize his stretch that he's been on, which is a good one. But, I got to tip the cap, give credit where credit's due. The Rangers have been doing better on the power play in certain manners, and Ryan Strome has been a part of it. Yes, he's the guy that will still miss an occasional open net on the right side, but not this time. And, he's been definitely getting the score column more often than lately. Not this goal, not in this game, but the game prior that we just discussed, when you have that clap from the right side, thanks to Adam Fox. Or was it the Sharks game here? Or am I getting them confused?
No, it was the Sharks game.
Okay, the Sharks game is when Fox fed it to him and they just went for a nice slapper, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the game prior is where he had open net, I think, then, on the power play.
No, I think he had an open net against the Bruins where he missed it.
No, he had an open net where he made it, though, too.
No, that was Dryden Hunt. Are you thinking of Dryden Hunt?
No, I don't think I am. I don't know. Don't worry about me. Worry about you. Continue with the game.
Never mind. Ryan Strome, with his fourth goal of the season, now has 16 points in 19 games. I know Ryan Strome is not the most popular player among this fan base, but I don't see a reason why. I don't see how the Rangers let him go. I don't see how the Rangers go into next season without him, honestly.
I agree with you. Yeah, we talked about that more in depth last episode, but yeah, no,
they will make moves. They will make the moves necessary to keep him. Because
I agree.
Right now, let me look it up to make sure it's accurate. But I'm just gonna look up the points Ryan Strome has since 2019 compared to other centers. I
wonder what center exactly you're going to compare him to.
No, I'm not going to compare him to Matt Barzal because it's no longer relevant.
Okay.
So let's see, 2019.
While you're doing that, I'm going to just recap the game. So a couple things. Obviously, the Rangers is tight. Sharks outshot the Rangers by 128-27. Face-off, Shark dominated at 58% to Rangers 42. Rangers had the lone power play goal by Strome, as we mentioned. Hits, Rangers dominated 22-14. Blocks, Sharks 17-9. And giveaways, Rangers had more, unfortunately, 11-8. But the bigger emphasis on this game wasn't the lack of scoring, but rather the great goaltending leading up into a rather significant injury, at least on the forefront. As we know, Igor Shasturkin moved, and yeah, he struggled to put weight on that leg. I'm going to want to know what your take was, your emotions at that point in time, being there live as it happened. But Igor, he got hurt. He's on the IR now. It looks like, however, thankfully, Gallant said in post-game presser that sigh of relief, that's not nearly as bad as it looks. He's on the IR, as we know, so he'll be out this week, but he should be good to go hopefully after that. So Igor, the biggest battle with him so far in his Rangers tenure has not been performance. It's been just staying healthy for different reasons. A lot of unfortunate reasons, too, might add, between the car accident, between having the hamstring issue and the bubble. Multiple things have gone on with Igor. So hoping the best for him with speedy recovery. But thankfully, it doesn't look like it's nearly as bad as what it originally was. And Georgiev came in and had a really solid time in relief for Shasturkin for the final 8 saves that he made. And then he went on to have a good game in Chicago that we'll get into here in a minute. But yeah, what was your initial reaction to Igor going down the way he did?
Yeah, I mean, first thing I thought it was knee injury because he couldn't put any weight on his leg. But the fact that he's on IR and that the first signs look good, I'm happy with that. This team is not going anywhere without him. But I'm starting to get a little worried about his health and his inability to stay healthy throughout the season. This is the 3rd season in a row where he's missing games due to injury.
Yeah.
I know the first season it was because of a car accident. I don't really.
You can't blame that on him.
Blame him for that, but
unless he somehow. I mean, I don't even think they were at fault in that car accident from the report I saw.
I don't. But I don't think he was driving. So it's
Buchnevich was. I'm pretty sure.
Last season was the groin injury, and now this. I hope it's something that he'll recover from and doesn't happen again. But it's not as concerning as concussions, at least. It's
correct.
Yeah, groin injuries are brutal for goalies with the way they move in the crease. But I think he'll be fine. But yeah, going back to Ryan Strome, since 2019, he has 125 points in 145 games, which is a point per game average of 0.86. Now, I'm going to name a list of centers that have a lower point per game average than Ryan Strome in that same span. Nugent Hopkins, Kuznetsov, Couturier, Lindholm, Pettersson, Barzal, Giroux, Krejci, Kadri, Hurdle, Trocheck, Sam Reinhart, Taves, Larkin, Nelson, and Shen.
There's some impressive names in there that actually play during that spin, because I know some of those have been out for different reasons, but playing
Pavelski, Horvat, Couture, Sagan, Duchesne, all lower point per game averages than Ryan Strome since 2019. Yeah, I know he's playing with Artemi Panarin, but my counter argument against that is always and will always be that Panarin is producing at a higher rate playing with Strome too.
Yeah.
Panarin hit career highs in goals and assists in a shortened season in only 69 games playing with Ryan Strome. There's no way this team's going to move on from Ryan Strome.
Yeah, not in the near future, at least.
I don't see that happening at all. No.
Yeah, I agree with you. But that was an awesome game for you to cap off and get a sigh of relief at the end with Igor. So
and then the last one, I was on the plane for that one, so I didn't watch it live.
Yeah, I can take it over from here, Steven. So you were on the plane. We're worried. Steven leaves New York. He went 5-0 with the Rangers during that span, 3-0 in attendance. Okay, so a loss is coming, is what you're saying. No, the Rangers thankfully win this one, so we can put that to bed for now. The Rangers win 3-2 shots. They outshot the Blackhawks 3-1-27. Lost in the faceoff dot per usual, however, 57-43. Did score on the power play that we'll be getting into. Hits 28-26 in the Rangers' favor. Blocks 17-15 in the Rangers' favor, and giveaways, unfortunately, are in the Rangers' favor 9-7. But this was an annoying start to the game because literally right at the end, the worst time to give up a goal, obviously, is within the last minute or two. It's always a gut punch. It has your head hanging down a little bit. And we see a fluky goal. It's not that when you look at the review, from what I saw, I didn't completely deep dive it, but it looked like it was a high stick that then led Kane to get that goal. It was like a rebound, a bounce. So Kane gets the goal with literally just a couple seconds left in the first period. And Steven, what's your take on that after seeing that?
Yeah. Look, if you're a Ranger fan with season tickets, you are fucked if you are in your seat too late or if you leave too early this season. Because this shit keeps happening. We either score in the last game, in the last minute of the period, or the first minute of the period. It sucks conceding that goal. But I understand why the refs called it the way they did. It was not a shot on goal, so the puck can be hit above the crossbar. It has to be hit below the shoulders. I think, did Gallant challenge that?
I honestly don't know if he did. I don't recall if he did or not.
Because there's a delay of game penalty right at the same moment. I'm looking at the box score now.
Then it would have to be that.
Then he lost the challenge.
Yeah, there's no. Yeah, that would be the obvious reason. So I'm going to assume he challenged there.
So yeah, unlucky goal, but the rules are the rules. You know, you can hit the puck above the crossbar as long as it doesn't go on goal. Now there's a question whether or not Georgiev touching that puck makes it a shot on goal.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not directed towards the goal, but if it comes sideways and the goalie touches it, is it considered a shot on goal? Or is that considered the goalie just deflecting the puck?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the biggest argument here. But ultimately, the refs call it the way they do. I don't really have an argument against it, but I can understand why Ranger fans were upset.
Oh, and see, this is where I'm remembering the Ryan Strome goal. I don't know, I was getting thrown off. Then we get into the second period, and Strome does get a power play goal. And yes, it's literally open net on the right side. So there we go. Assisted by Panarin and Fox. Strome just continuing the points. Panarin looking great. Panarin had an awesome game. So did Fox. Adam Fox then scores as well, gets his 5th of the year. A really nice goal, assisted by Hunt and Panarin in the second. Then we had the third period, and Artemi does what he does best against, his former teams as well, from Columbus now to Chicago. Gets himself a really nice goal, his 7th of the year, assisted by Strome and Trouba, who Truba's been playing some really good hockey as of late, in my opinion.
By the way, on that second goal, the one by Adam Fox, Ryan Strome initially got the assist.
Yes, that's correct. And then it got switched.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, that goal by Panarin was his 499th NHL point.
I know.
So awesome. There is a good chance that tomorrow
is number 500.
Going to hit 500 in Chicago.
If I'm a betting man, I think he gets it.
he's gonna get his 500th point against the team he made his NHL debut for.
Yep.
In Chicago.
That's awesome. I really hope that happens.
Yeah. And then the last goal by Alex DeBrincat, I want to talk about that if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
Because I'm sick and tired of Patrick Nemeth assassinating our goalies.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's a great point.
He needs to stop this bullshit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Stop pushing players into our goalies, please. Yeah. I've seen it at least 4 times now this season, and I don't understand why. If he doesn't do anything, Georgiev covers up the puck. The game's 3-1. You don't have to worry about the empty net. You don't have to worry about getting scored on 6-on-5. I mean. Now DeBrincat gets the goal. It's 3-2, and then you have a minute 20, I think, where you still have to defend the lead. Instead of it being 3-1, it's unnecessary. And I wasn't a fan of Patrick Nemeth in the beginning. I was okay. I thought it was okay to sign him. Wasn't a huge fan, but having seen him play for 2 months, I'm over him. He doesn't add anything on the ice.
He's a trade chip waiting to happen.
And that's the thing. If they want to keep Ryan Strome, Patrick Nemeth is the first candidate to get traded.
Absolutely.
He has 2 years left, $2.5 million. That will clear up enough cap room to keep Ryan Strome.
Yep. And the Rangers have the prospect depth defensively, that they can handle it, even if they have some bumps in the road when they're first, getting themselves acclimated to the NHL. I think the Rangers can still handle that for certain.
Speaking of, yeah, I do want to get into that for a couple of minutes, the whole prospect thing, because
we will.
We have a good season on our hands with our prospects too.
Yeah. We'll get into that. I'll let you take that away shortly, but that's all you really need to know. Georgiev had a very solid game for the Rangers in this one. Got the job done, which is needed. I mean, look, with Igor out, even if it's a couple games, these are games that the Rangers still absolutely need to win. So shout out to Georgie. He's also playing tomorrow night at the time of recording this when they're in Chicago Tuesday this week. So we'll see how he does then. But Rangers, again, past 7 games since last time we talked, they only have 1 loss, and that was the first game, and it was only a 2-1 loss in Toronto. So all is positive on the Rangers front right now. And I really want to get into just how significant this 6 straight wins has been for the Rangers. And I know as many of you guys are watching live, if you are, please make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. If you're enjoying this episode of Rangers Review, make sure to also check us out if you're listening on the podcast form to leave us a nice review. No pun intended. If you guys would, it would really mean a lot. But let's get into now, over the past 7 games for the Rangers, I have some statistics here for us. So during that span, since we last spoke, Rangers leading scorers during that time, Artemi Panarin, awesome past 7 games, 10 points to be exact. Adam Fox, 9 points in his past 7 games. And Ryan Strome, 8 points in his past 7 games, including 10 points in his last 11 games. So very, very strong stuff for Strome. He's been getting on the point board endlessly. And, for a team that isn't necessarily getting constant goal scoring from maybe some other guys like Mika Zibanejad, a little underwhelming, but nothing that I'm concerned about. But he's not off to a scoring pace that we've been accustomed to in recent years, even though I know he did have a slow start in the short and pandemic season. It's nice to see Strome to kind of, pick up weight a little bit and constantly gain on that score sheet and doing well, as always, with Panarin. I also want to talk about Igor. Appreciation for Igor Shasturkin, or Shasturkin, how you would like to call it. He has 5 straight wins now for the Rangers, and he's won 8 of his past 9 games. That includes 1 game where he wasn't a starter, because that's when he came in relief, in the third for Georgiev. But you can tell that, a big part of the reason why the Rangers have been winning has been their goaltending. Yes, they've been more in unison as a club recently with their lines and everything, but Igor has still been the man holding the fort, everything together. He's done an absolutely stellar job, and this team needs him. And this kind of goes on to the talk that we've had previously about goaltending tandems, right? Igor deserves a lot of starts, and rightfully so. But if this is a continued trend for him potentially, or he does get these, nagging injuries here and there, they could result into something that will obviously not be good for this club. You need Igor more available than you need him not available. It's not even close. So I think this is going to be further telling for the Rangers heading into the offseason that, unless Georgiev really turns himself around and he finds himself staying on the Rangers for the foreseeable future, that they need to try their best to have a backup that can really hold things down whenever they feel that maybe Igor just needs a little extra rest. Because at the end of the day, this is our all-star of a goaltender. This is a guy that very well can find himself as a potential Vezina winner this year, or at least as a finalist. He's that good, and he's in the prime of his career. By no means do I want to see any of it get wasted or lost potential due to consistent injuries for various reasons. So I just want to throw that out there about Igor. That's something that I think all of us Ranger fans are always worried about with him, his health. So if you can do anything and everything to potentially, maximize the amount you're going to get out of him and limit the amount of risk with injury, then by all means do it. So if that means that maybe they do turn towards a different goaltender as a backup, as part of a 1-2 tandem next season, then so be it. You want to see the team win, but you also want to make sure that you have your stud goaltender down the stretch and where it matters most come playoffs, which is what the Rangers will be doing for years and years to come. So that's why I want to mention Georgiev also, like we said, been very solid in these past, game and a half since coming in for Igor's injury. I hope that continues for his sake. And if you look at power play and penalty kill wise, Rangers have done a stellar job on both fronts during the 7-game span. If you're talking about power play wise, the Rangers were 27.8% the past 7 games, 5 for 18 to be exact. PK wise, they've been literally awesome. 16 for 18, 88.9%. If you look at how their season totals are right now, the Rangers are the 9th best team in the NHL power play wise at 22.1%. Penalty kill wise, they're 16th, so they're right around average at 82.3%. Shots against is still an issue for them. However, they need to continue trying to limit as much shot creation from the opposing team as possible. They're 19th in the league, giving up right around 32 shots per game to the opposing club. But yeah, I just want to throw those numbers out there. Rangers have been on a really good stretch. And if you look at how Igor's importance has been with gaining the win column constantly, and also looking at point production with Panarin getting back in the groove of things, but Panarin looking like the Panarin that we all know and love. Panarin had a slow start to the season. Yes, he was getting points, but he didn't look like himself. And you and I made that abundantly clear. So it's great to see not just him in a role point wise, but also looking like the Panarin that we're accustomed to. One where he's getting points, but more deservedly so per se, versus maybe things going a little lucky in his favor. So with that being said, we can definitely pivot to you on any final thoughts you have on the 6-game win streak, and then we'll get into prospects.
Yeah, like I've said it elsewhere, but I'm happy the Rangers are winning, but I'm even happier that the Rangers are winning, playing sustainable hockey.
Yep.
They're playing a style of hockey that if they play 100 games like this, you can expect them to win most of them. Whereas in the past, we were playing games where if you play them 10 times, you lose them 9 out of 10. And I think that's the biggest difference between the Rangers now and the Rangers in October and early November. So that's something fans should be happy about. And if someone points out on social media that, yeah, the Rangers are winning, but we're not playing well, that doesn't mean that they're not happy that they're winning. I'm always happy when we win, but I'm realistic enough to realize that the way we're playing is not sustainable. And you can be happy with a win and still criticize the way your team plays. But right now, they're playing better. Panarin is playing better. The only player we really need to heat up now is Mika Zibanejad, but he started off slow last season too. I think it's going to happen in a couple of games, and hopefully around the time we're going to face some stronger opposition.
Yeah,
because that's when we need a guy like Mika Zibanejad to show up.
Yeah, we need, and I think if there's any benefit from him being, a little quiet, at least in the goal column, is that he feels inevitable that he's going to break out like he usually does. So if that means that he's going to start breaking out when the Rangers need him to most, second half of the season, by all means, that's fine with me. I love pretty stats. I love guys like Zibanejad that can push north of 40 goals and stuff. But at the end of the day, what matters most is obviously helping this team win and also how they're winning. As long as Zibanejad gets on a groove when it's going to be most important second half down the stretch of the season, that's what I am more focused on than anything else. This is now the time, if we're being honest, where the Rangers can handle the quote unquote underwhelming aspect of his goal scoring this season, because they haven't been facing nearly as intense competition. And this isn't a slight on him. Zibanejad hasn't been playing bad. We just know that goal scoring wise, he's off to a little bit of a slower pace than, what we expect of him. And it's okay though. I'm not really concerned on his front. It goes in hand with Lafreniere, how, I think Laffy is going to continue to get better and all those other things. So it's just a matter of time with all of them respectively. But now let's get into prospects for a little bit, because I know that you got plenty to talk about. We haven't talked about prospects in a bit. So if you'd like to emphasize what has been most important in Rangers prospect land since last time we spoke, by all means, go ahead. And then from there, we'll kind of wrap things up, ask questions in the live stream, and then we'll get into the upcoming schedule for the next week before we get out of here.
Yeah. A lot of things happening. Hockey Canada announced their team. Will Cooley and Dylan Garand are included.
Awesome.
Yeah. Brennan Othman isn't, which is a big surprise.
Given how good of a season he's had thus far.
He is one of the better players in the OHL this season. At the age of 18, contributes to 46% of his team's goals, which is the highest in the OHL by any player. And for some reason, he's not on the team. Now, I spoke to someone who said to me that none of the OHL players playing in the United States were even interviewed by Hockey Canada. So maybe that's something that has something to do with it.
Okay.
The OHL has 3 teams based in the U.S. The Saginaw Spirit, the Flint Firebirds, both in Michigan, and the Erie Otters in Pennsylvania. So maybe that has something to do with it, but it's disappointing to not see him in the World Juniors. I fully expected him to be there. But another guy that's definitely going to be there, you can put money on it, is Brett Berard for Team USA. Berard is one of 4 prospects that I think has a really good shot at making the team and be like a contributing player. The other three are Othman, Cooley, and Zach Jones. I think those 4 are locks to make the team at some point. Jones is having a good season in the AHL. 13 points, I think. Let me quickly look it up. Let me quickly verify.
While you're quickly looking it up, I'd like to
13,
shout out.
13 points in 18 games, yeah.
13 points, awesome. All right, I just want to say thank you to a subscriber here on the channel that's watching us on YouTube for the $2 donation. Really appreciate that, Mr. Sensei. I know you spelled Makar as Maker, but I understood you were trying to say Makar. Makar nowhere near Fox. Yeah, I mean, we obviously have a bias towards us, but the numbers also indicate, Adam Fox is, I think we can all agree, the best defenseman in the league. And this isn't a slight on Kel Makar at all. I'm not trying to jinx anything as the Rangers play him this week, but definitely view them both as great talents in the leagues, the best. But I still have Adam Fox as number one.
I think the top 5 defensemen in the league are in order: Adam Fox, Charlie McAvoy, Roman Josi, Kel Makar, Victor Hedman.
We're gonna get into debates if we do this right now.
Yeah, but
don't do it.
He's a great defenseman, and if we didn't have Adam Fox, I'd love him on my team.
I'd love them both together, but I mean, the Rangers.
Who's going to pay $18 million for 2 defensemen?
The Rangers can only handle one, certain puck moving defenseman, right now, because Trouba, he's not to the level like Fox, and Niels isn't there yet, but he has potential to be really good in his career.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we don't have Pionk and Tony D here still.
Yeah. So you're talking about Jones and Lundqvist, and there's also Schneider still, and Robertson. I think we'll see Jones and Schneider on the team later in the season. When there's some injuries, they'll be the first call-ups. I think Jones has a really good chance of taking over from Nemeth next season. I don't think Nemeth's going to be here past this season with the way the cap is structured, the way he's playing. And I think Braden Schneider will have to earn his way onto the team. But with the way Niels Lundqvist is playing, there's no reason to send him down. There's also nothing to indicate Braden Schneider would perform better in the NHL. It's a big jump from the AHL to the NHL.
Give him time to get acclimated. The Rangers aren't in a situation where they need to rush him.
He just turned 20. He's a defenseman. Defensemen always take a little bit longer. But the Rangers would rather have Jones and Schneider play 19, 20, 21 minutes in Hartford for a full season than have them up with the team and play limited minutes.
Rightfully so.
Whereas Niels Lundqvist is a more established player already who, in their eyes, doesn't have much to gain from a stint in the AHL. So Lundqvist being on the team over Schneider makes a lot of sense if you look at the logistics of how the team is set up. And I think the bigger issue for the Rangers is what are they going to do with their junior prospects next season, and especially with Brennan Hoffman, because this kid is lighting up the OHL at age 18. He's not eligible to play in Hartford next season either. He's not eligible this season. He's not eligible next season. The first time he can actually play in Hartford, aside from a tryout, is the 2023-2024 season. I honestly hope they find a solution to have him play somewhere else. I know
Schneider.
No, talking about Brennan Hoffman.
Oh, okay.
Because he's not eligible to play in the AHL. But I do like where this team is going with their forward prospects. You have Barron, you have Pajuniemi, you have Cooley, Schneider, Cooley, Hoffman, and then Ryder Korczak, who I think is one of the more underrated draft picks in recent years.
Very underrated. I haven't been following him game by game like I know you have, but I was in favor of that draft pick from the beginning. Yeah. But before you get a Ryder, I want to ask you about Brendan for a second. So you're saying that you hope that there's potentially a different spot for him soon, knowing that he isn't available for the AHL anytime soon, right?
Either he makes it the NHL team or he's back in the OHL.
And given how if he's like completely dominating OHL, would it potentially give him more benefit if he goes back overseas like what he did in his draft?
Yeah, but that's something he cannot do.
Oh, he's not allowed.
Because he's under contract with an NHL team now. NHL teams cannot assign players drafted out of juniors to teams overseas without their approval. So if the Flint Firebirds,
okay. I see
the
where
only way I've looked into this, it's difficult to find because it's difficult to get your hands on a copy of the CHL transfer agreement because it was agreed upon in I think 1971.
Okay.
But as far as I know, the only way Brandon Althman can play overseas is if his team, the Flint Firebirds, renounces rights.
And that's not going to be an easy thing to do.
they would terminate his contract. By doing so, they would basically throw away any fees they would receive from the Rangers. It would be bad for business. So unfortunately, this is the deal Brandon Hoffman signed up for when he declared for major junior hockey when he was 16 years old. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
He's not the only. I mean, we could go down a long list of players that outplay their times in juniors. You know what I mean?
Matt Barzal, Mark Scheifele, to name a few.
Yep.
Braden Point, who played for the same team as Ryder Korczak right now, by the way.
You can even make the argument with Ty Ronning, given his final year, because he was older in age too.
Yeah, I think Ty Ronning was too good for the WHL, but not good enough for pro. So
yep,
it was difficult with him because he's a smaller kid. He doesn't play an overly physical style of hockey. Mm-hmm. Whereas Brendan Hoffman has already has pro experience where he did really well. I think Brendan Hoffman would be better suited for pro hockey. So we'll see what happens there. But between Hoffman, Korczak, Cooley, Berard, and then Payuniemi and Barron in Hartford, finally we have some forward prospects to look forward to. Unfortunately, most of them are wingers, but I mean, one step at a time, right? If we do indeed hang on to Zibanejad and Strome, there's no need for a center prospect to break through.
Yep, at least not in the coming years, maybe down the stretch, but not right now.
And there's still Carl Henriksen in Sweden, who's going to be playing for Hartford next season. So
yep, that's true. Yeah,
but overall, the Rangers, for years we were talking about their defensive prospects, and now we're talking about their forwards, which is good because our defense is set now.
Correct.
We have the kids in Hartford to call up if we need to. Now we need these forwards to really make their mark.
Further emphasis on the Payunemis, who's actually done really well in some games. I'm on. Oh yeah, when you were at the game for Hartford, didn't he have 2 goals?
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, it's because Steven's there. It all makes sense now.
He was so happy to saw his Finland jersey, and he's like,
you repped his Finland jersey there.
After the game, he signed it, and he's like, I never seen this jersey anywhere.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, no, it's fun. He had 2 goals in that game. Kodorenko had a goal and an assist. So I met him at the game too. And then Justin Richards. I think Justin Richards is an under the radar candidate to make the team in a few years. He's more a fourth line player. So he would replace Kevin Rooney if we ever move on from him. But it's nice to have these kids, coming through the ranks now. I am going to do a prospect breakdown with the guys from Big Apple Hockey in a couple of weeks.
Awesome.
So I'll go into more depth on these prospects and what to expect.
If you guys, most of you guys probably know them, but if you guys don't know Big Apple Hockey, they are also great Ranger content creators on YouTube. So make sure to check them out on their channel, respectively. If you guys haven't already, I'm sure that we'll be doing collaborations with them in the near future. So make sure to do that.
But yeah, that's all from my end. So if there are any questions.
Yeah, let's get a question. So guys, if you're watching this live, we're going to do our Q&A segment. If you're listening on replay, then you know how this usually goes by now, or if you're listening wherever you get your podcasts too. The format, we'll try to make it a little bit different as time goes on and potentially give listeners that are listening strictly through the podcast form an ability to give in questions too, as we get more acclimated, comfortable with what we're doing here for Rangers Review. But Q&A time, folks, we're going to be going for the next, I'd say let's go for, upwards of 10 minutes, and then we'll do a quick breakdown on the next week of games for the Rangers before we expect to talk again and give our predictions, because, our predictions have just been kaput from not talking in, easily 2.5 weeks now. So we got to get back on that grind and see who's going to hold the belt. I don't even know. Do you have the belt? Do I have the belt? If I do, I lost it. So I got to look for it. I don't know.
It's let's see.
Question here from Enzo: do the Rangers acquire a top 6 right winger this season? I think that there's a
Yes,
possibility that they do.
yes, I
acquire
think
top
they
6
do. I think they're going to pick one up from Russia in March.
in March, meaning that Vitali's coming back is what Steven is insinuating here. I do. I think that they're going to make a trade. I just don't
think
know
if they can get a right winger on an expiring contract and they don't have to give up too much, they might do it at the deadline. Someone like Phil Kessel, who has been linked with the Rangers.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of talk about that.
Not sure he is the answer, but we all know how much Chris Drury loves acquiring players who have already won Stanley Cups. So,
yep, that's true. It doesn't hurt. I don't think Kessel would hurt the locker room.
It would bring the number of Stanley Cup rings in the locker room to 7, or to 5.
Okay.
So because Goudreau has 2 and Blais has 1.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. Well, let's get into. We got a couple more questions here from Hooligan. Do I think we should stop using Shesty so much because Georgiev isn't bad? Just needs more time on ice and games play with confidence. Here's the thing. The Rangers' motive, first and foremost, this season is winning, right? Under this new, playoff mentality with Gallant. So, Georgie has been beyond underwhelming until the past game and a half. So I wouldn't say that he hasn't been bad. He has been bad in plenty of instances. There's a drastic difference between the two on an average night-to-night basis. And I know that confidence is a big thing in that for players, and he's made it known himself. You can clearly tell that he lacks confidence, but he'll continue to build it up when more playing time he gets. I think that this is a huge test for Georgiev, right? How is he going to do in Chicago tomorrow? How's he going to do for the remainder of this week? The Rangers have 4 games this week, so they have a lot that's going on, and Georgiev more than likely is going to be starting those games. So to answer your question, this is really his best chance to prove himself in the short term right now, to give the Rangers feeling that they have more leeway at the goaltending position. But make no mistake, while I don't want to see Shasturkin get hurt, and I do want to eliminate any potential risk of him getting hurt, obviously the Rangers are going to prioritize wins first and foremost. And if Georgiev is not helping them get there, then, that's all she wrote. That's been the case so far this season in multiple games. It's been the case last season, the shortened season. Steven, I think you can attest to that, right?
Yeah. Shasturkin was happy when he was announced to be the starter of the team. When he was in the KHL, he was part of a tandem for many years. It was with Koskinen first, and then with Magnus Hellberg, former Ranger goalie. And when you are significantly better than the other goalie, there's no need to go with a 1A, 1B setup. And under David Quinn openly said, I don't know who my starting goalie is at the start of last season. How do you expect Shasturkin to react when his numbers are significantly better than Georgiev's?
Yeah.
And then your coach comes out and says, I don't know who my starter is. So one of the first things Gallant did when he came in was to tell Shasturkin that he's the starter now. That doesn't mean I want him to play 70 games. I think between 60 and 65 would be the max for a starting goalie. We've had seasons in the past where someone like Lundqvist played over 70 games and it burns them out.
Yeah.
Because once you get to the playoffs, they have nothing left in the tank. So I'm okay with the way we are using Shasturkin. You want to play games, you play games to win, and your best chance at winning is to play your best goalie. So unless there's a back-to-back, just play Shasturkin.
Yeah, and that's been the model they went with for, Gallant quickly figured that one out this season, and I think he'll continue to do so as long as he's healthy.
Yeah, I don't think his injury has anything to do with his usage.
It might going forward if there is
but I mean, his injury is not caused by him playing too many games.
Oh yeah, no, that I agree with. Yeah, no, yeah, so I agree with you on that one.
I'm okay with the way they're using him now.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. Okay. Pleasant surprise, biggest one so far for the Rangers. Mine, it's Chris Kreider. Didn't expect Kreider to have 16 goals, 19 points for the first 20 plus games. That's a pleasant surprise. I think most people could agree. What about you, Steven?
I think Adam Fox. It's hard to follow up a Norris Trophy season.
And so the fact that he's out playing what he did last year, right?
the fact that he's playing better than when he won a Norris Trophy,
Mhm.
that's great. Pleasant surprises. I like the way Kako's playing recently. Putting up some points. Um, but I think my unsung hero on this team, and I mentioned him before, Kevin Rooney.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I like that. I
I
know.
think
I
Kevin
know you.
Rooney is part of the heart and soul of this team.
You need the
And
Kevin Rooney's of the
and
world to get you where you need to be.
remember, they used a protection slot on him in the expansion draft for a
Yep,
reason.
and it seems like it's paying off.
Oh
Big time
yes,
so far.
in hindsight, it looks like a great decision.
Absolutely. All right, Yona, thank you so much for the $5 donation. I appreciate that. Happy Independence Day to all Finnish Rangers fans. Awesome. Happy Independence Day to you, my friend. Any chance we could get a short summary of Steven's background? Seems really interesting. All right. I mean, I feel like I could do it myself, but I'll let Steven go ahead. Steven, give us a very, very
All right,
short summary of your background because we have a couple
my
more guys to talk
background,
to.
so like my life in general. Um, Born and raised in the Netherlands, moved to South Africa when I was 22, moved to Austria when I was 29, moved to Ireland 6 months ago, became a Rangers fan when I was 7, 8 years old. My parents were always fighting. They were in the middle of a divorce. I was watching a lot of TV when I came home from school every day. And every day at 4 p.m., there was a TV station in Europe called Eurosport. I think it was still called Screen Sport at the time. They were showing NHL highlights every weekday. So I was watching NHL highlights as a kid. My dad would buy me the New York Post at the American bookstore in the city, and that's how I started to read English and start to understand, certain words at a young age. And I started following the Rangers because as a kid, I thought it was weird that they were the only team without a logo on their jersey. I thought that was odd, and that's how I connected with the team. 2016 went to my first Rangers game. 2017, when I moved to Austria for a job, I started a job where I traveled a lot to countries like Sweden, Finland, Czech Republic, and that's when I really started to go to hockey games. It was around the same time the Rangers started their rebuild, so they were drafting a lot of players from Europe. So I was going to these games and just attending them, and you connect with people. You go to an under-20 tournament in the Czech Republic, and you support a kid from Sweden playing against a kid from Russia, and the parents walk up to you and go, "Why do you support my 18-year-old grandson?" And you go, "Well, he was drafted by the Rangers fan, this and that." But that's how the connections start, and it just started growing from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better considering that's your story, not mine. But yeah, good question. Appreciate the donation again, Yona. We'll get on to a couple more before we get on to the schedule for the Rangers upcoming. Been reading that the Rangers might look to upgrade a defenseman over Nemeth. You guys think they bring up Jones for first to see how the two with two kids on the third pairing? Personally, I think Jones will get an experience this year. I don't know the likelihood of him naturally being with Niels. I think if that might happen, they might split up Miller and Trouba if they feel that they can be comfortable enough doing that. Because I still feel like that there will be a bit more comfortability in splitting up a pair that is established versus keeping a pair together that has no experience, that they're both rookies, right? So that's my take.
2019, 2020, we had a rookie defensive pairing in Lindgren and Fox, and it worked out great. But it was also Adam Fox who would win a Norris Trophy a year later. So I think if Zach Jones gets an opportunity, they'll do what Tyler alluded to. They'll play Jones with Trouba, and they'll play Miller with Lundqvist. I think those are two really good fits on defense. Jones, with the way he moves the puck, with Trouba's physicality, I think that's a really good combination. And that third pairing might ease things a little bit for K'Andre Miller. At times, he has looked uncomfortable. He's looked a bit shaky defensively. But if he's on a third pairing with Niels Lundqvist, then the matchups might be a little easier for him, and it might help him grow into the player that we all hope he can be. So I think that's the move going forward. I think Jones is a better defenseman than K'Andre Miller. And it's mostly because of the way Jones has played so far. They played in the World Juniors a couple of years ago on the same team, and in that tournament, Zach Jones was already better than K'Andre Miller.
I was watching that tournament, yeah, I remember vividly when Keandre got, just absolutely fooled by Alexei.
Yeah. And I think that was the 2020 World Juniors in the Czech Republic.
Mm-hmm.
And Zach Jones was better then, and he's better now, in my opinion. I think that will happen at the end of the season. I don't think they're going to move on from Nemeth at the deadline, but I wouldn't be surprised if they move on from Hayek and to Nordy.
If they're able to.
And then keep Nemeth as a 7th defenseman until at least the end of the season.
Yeah, that's fair. And that's an outcome I'm not really against at all. I would be rather in favor of it. Donation here from Mr. Sensei. Again, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Do I think Fox will have a better career than Leach? I think simple answer to this is I wouldn't compare the two. I know it's really easy to because Fox is the best Rangers defenseman since someone like Brian Leach, but they're so different. I don't see Fox surpassing Leach in point production. But nor do I think that's a slight on Fox. Like there's reasons behind their utilization and everything.
Well, scoring has changed significantly since Leach played.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why I really wouldn't comp the two. I would say that let's just hope that Fox has an amazing career like he has at this point. And, look at those two as two of the best defensemen the Rangers have ever had in their history.
I think Adam Fox might end up with more individual hardware than Brian Leach, though.
Individual, maybe. I'll be a little tough. How much?
He had two Norris trophies and a Conn Smythe.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I could see him getting more hardware.
If you look at the core of young defensemen in the league right now, when Brian Leach was a young defenseman in the league, he had better competition than Adam Fox right now.
Okay.
I think it's a good core with McAvoy and Makar leading the way. And in the near future, guys like Owen Power might break through. Miro Heiskanen might improve a little bit more. But once guys like Hetman and Yossi retire, the Norris Trophy is going to be between those three. It's going to be between Fox, McAvoy, and Makar. And I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Adam Fox wins more than 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, the way he's playing now.
Yeah.
I think that at the moment there are 3 players on this team that will have their numbers raised to the rafters at Madison Square Garden, though.
I think so too.
It's Panarin, Fox, and Shasturkin.
Mm-hmm.
Kreider, maybe if he wins a cup, he would be. I think Kreider's career is best compared to Adam Graves. If Kreider wins a cup with the Rangers, then his number could go up there as well.
I think you could also make that argument with Zibanejad if he stays on this team long term.
Maybe. I don't.
There's a lot of big question marks, but again, a lot needs to go in their favor.
It's question marks. But I think the way I expect Panarin to play until he's almost 40 with the Rangers. He's happy in New York. Shasturkin is a potential future Hall of Famer. I think Adam Fox is going to the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's early. I know it's only his third season, but sometimes there are players where you just know.
He hasn't done anything to make us think otherwise right now, So there's that.
Yeah.
So
and the fact that he's doing it as a 3rd-round pick, 66 overall,
is even more impressive.
Ooh, yes.
Artemi Panarin, undrafted free agent. It goes on.
Igor,
exactly. They might not, just because they're not the pre-picks doesn't mean they're not the best picks.
I think before we move on to the next one quickly on Makar, I think early on in their rookie seasons, Makar got a lot of votes based on reputation, being a 4th overall pick.
Yes. Oh yeah. No. Look, the back was against the wall for Fox in regards to the rookie race, because he didn't have the same point production like Makar. He wasn't as flashy as him or Hughes. Now we're seeing a lot has changed since then. However, I thought Foxy was deserving of being a finalist that year. Dominic Kubalik had other things to say too. So,
a 30-goal rookie season gets you in the top 3.
Absolutely, yeah. And he was a very interesting story too.
I think Fox should have been in the top 3 ahead of Quinn Hughes, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah, exactly. But let's get on to the second and last question we'll be taking here, folks. Raphael, thank you so much for the $10 donation here on YouTube. Really appreciate that, my friend. I've seen Georgie play good games and make amazing saves in the past, including yesterday. but he never got chance from the Garden. Doesn't he deserve an Alex chant when he does well? Thanks. I agree. Yeah, I mean, look, the only way for Georgiev to get more on a roll is to boost his confidence outside of just him performing well. Confidence is something that will be a driving force for any and every player. Any player, of course, will tell you that. So yeah, I agree. I'm in favor of Chance. I think part of the reasons why Chance don't happen, however, is because of Georgiev being rather underwhelming to this point. If we see more of this, if we see more of a respectable Georgiev, then I think we get it. We've seen Chance of him in the past. I don't think we're Alex. I think they were Georgie, because I don't think you can do Georgiev. I think they were Georgie, which I think is cool.
When is the last time a backup goalie had a chant at the Garden?
Yeah, that's fair.
It doesn't really happen. And the reason the Igor chant works is because the reason it's so powerful is because of the moments where it happens. The chant that Igor got against the Flyers is a chant that he earned, not just for killing the 5-minute power play, but the way he did it. He made saves holding Trouba's stick because he lost his own stick on the penalty kill. The way he's played for the last year and a half, the way he has carried this team throughout the season so far, the way he has single-handedly won us games with magnificent saves. That's how you earn the chant. I'm not saying that Georgiev shouldn't get a chant at the Garden, but he has to earn it. And with this fan base, with any fan base, you're going to have to earn it. If Georgiev has a stellar game where he makes 48 saves and he gets a shutout against the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm pretty sure he'll get a chant at the Garden for that in the final seconds of the game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And
but you're not going to get it in a 3-2 win over the Chicago Blackhawks, who are a piss poor team.
No, you'll get it if you have like a stellar performance again. As long as consistency is key.
Yeah,
for
it has to be either a stellar one-off performance, consistency, or something really rare, like the 5-minute penalty kill with a defenseman stick in your hand. That still baffles me that he didn't concede a goal while holding Trouba's stick.
Yeah, no, that was insane.
and that's a right-handed defenseman stick too, so it's curved the wrong way.
Yep,
everything about that play is wrong.
Feels like me when I play hockey with my friends and I don't have the proper stick. They all have lefties or something. So I'm like, all right, let's try to make this work. But the last comment that we'll be taking, again, thank you all so much for the questions, guys, in the live stream. Before we get on to the upcoming games, is from Josh the Iceman. Thank you so much for the $2 donation, my friend. Always appreciate that. Do I think Huska or Wall can perform in the AHL? Yes. I don't think Huska is the guy. I think Huska could make an appearance, but I think Wall is the one where there's more optimism with. What's your take on that, Steven?
Yeah, I think Wall is the better goalie prospect. The situation in Hartford now with Keith Kincaid and what's the other guy that they signed? He's in Hartford now too. Francois Brassard, and then Adam Huska and Tyler Wall resulted in him being sent down to the ECHL to get some game time. For goalies, I think that's fine. It's only his second pro season. Where it's a weird time. Last season we didn't have an ECHL affiliate, so it's going to take a few years. But I think Wall has a better chance long term to be in the NHL. I don't think it's going to be for the Rangers though.
Okay. Yeah.
I think when the Rangers are going to move on from Georgiev, I think it's more likely that Kincaid's going to be the backup next season.
Okay.
They're going to have Huska and Wall in Hartford, competing for that third spot behind Kincaid. And then when Kincaid leaves, one of them is going to fill in. But the one kid to look out for, in my opinion, is Dylan Garand, who plays for the Kamloops Blazers.
Yeah,
I was just going to say that. Fourth round pick in 2020, putting up great numbers in the WHL. The only minor criticism I'd have, or minor reservation I have about his numbers, is that he plays on a stacked team. So I want to see how he does with against better opposition. He did spend some time in Hartford last season when the WHL was on hold. I'm not sure if he played any games, but he did spend time with them, practicing, being part of the the team on game days. So that was a good experience for him. I think he's the one to look out for long term to compete with Wall. I think Adam Huska is going to get traded when the time is right. But I do think I think this is the last season for Georgiev in New York.
I tend to agree with you on that one, and we talked about that multiple times.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for the questions, guys. Appreciate that. And Hogan, yes, if you have a question for us that we weren't able to answer, by all means, you can tweet it at Steven or I or both of us, and we'll definitely let you know on Twitter a response or whatever that is. But let's get on to the final thing before we get out of here, and also share our predictions. Is the upcoming schedule, right? Because the Rangers have a lot of games this week. And, depending on when we record next, if we're able to record next Monday, then that'll be a situation where, we will see 4 games. If we find ourselves not being able to record until either maybe Tuesday, then that'll still actually be 4 games because they're going to be out west. So either way, it looks like it'll be at least 4 games that we'll see. So starting tomorrow in Chicago against the Blackhawks, then it's a back-to-back. Then we're home. We fly back home to face the Avalanche, which are always going to be a tough opponent. I do believe Nathan McKinnon's back, correct? So that definitely is going to be making things a little bit difficult. Then we have our 3rd game of the week on Friday in Buffalo against the Sabres, and then Sunday game against Nashville. From there are a couple games in Colorado and Arizona on the 14th and 15th, but those are night games. So I'd imagine that we can hopefully get a recording on either Monday the 13th or the 14th prior to that second Colorado game. So 4 games coming up. I would say one of them definitely sticks out like a sore thumb versus the others. So, Steven, what is your prediction going to be for these next 4 games for the Rangers?
I'm going to go 3-0-1.
3-0-1. Okay. All right. My prediction.
I don't have to tell you what the 1 is, right?
No, you don't have to.
Okay. Because, it's the game that sticks out like a sore thumb. That's the one.
I know, the one in Buffalo. So mine's going to be 3-0-1's a good one. I'm going to go 3-1.
Okay, so 3-1-0. Number of goals?
Out of 4?
For the tiebreaker, yeah.
Let's see. Total goals or just Rangers goals?
Total Ranger goals.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to go 13. If in case you guys aren't aware, I didn't even get to throw the stat out there. The Rangers in their past 7 games have scored 23 goals, which is just over 3 per game, and they've only given up 12 in those past 7 games. So they've done a great job on doubling up on what they've been giving up. But yeah, 13 is my pick.
I'll go with 14 then, hoping they
Damn.
they get it.
I think you might get it. I think you might get it. But we'll see. We'll see. All right. Well, that's it. We're just about to hit 2 hours here in this episode of Rangers Review. Awesome discussion. Episodes normally won't be this long. Hopefully, we'll try to have them half as long or, a little bit over an hour. But like I said, a lot need to be addressed in this episode. So I hope you guys did enjoy. Absolutely loved having a conversation, catching up with everyone. And I'm really looking forward to hopefully being back a week from now. Again, more on a steady schedule each week regarding our Rangers and seeing how they're doing. But yeah, one of the best teams in the league right now. They have 35 points on the season. They're currently 2nd in the Metro, only to the Washington Capitals. So yeah, we'll see how they do the next 4 games. Steven, final remarks before we get out of here.
Yeah, let's hope Shasturkin's back when we play the Nashville Predators.
That'd be awesome. All right, let's hope so indeed. Nashville's actually ahead of the Avs right now in the standings.
I know. Shasturkin's on IR, so he can be activated again on Saturday. He can play again on Saturday. So he's missing the next 3 games against the Blackhawks, Avalanche, and Sabres.
I think safe bet is that Igor doesn't play again until Colorado. gives him a little bit more extended time.
Okay. How many games is Husker going to play, do you think?
At most one. At most one.
He's going to play against Chicago and then Georgiev against Colorado on the back-to-back, right? Or do you go with Husker?
No, it's already been announced. Georgiev's playing tomorrow.
Oh, so to go with Husker for the home game. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But again, folks, thank you so much for watching and listening wherever you get your podcasts. This is episode number 40 of Rangers Review, which means who's the most famous number 40, Steven? Most famous.
Oh, Steve Valiquette. Come on.
Yes.
I have to start with Steve Valiquette there.
Shout out to Steve.
But shout out to Steve Valiquette, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Let's go over the list. 14 players in Rangers history. Of course, the current backup goalie, Alexander Georgiev, Michael Grabner, Brandon Mashinter, former first overall pick Roman Hammerlick, Eric Christensen, Steve Valiquette, Chris Holt, UC Markkanen, Johan Holmqvist, Dennis Vial, Jay Moore, Randy Heath, Kelly Miller, and the first player in Rangers history to wear number 40 in 1982-83 was Mark Pavelich.
I'm going to go on a limb and say that Valiquette's your favorite one.
On a personal level, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I always liked Michael Grabner because
he's my favorite, yeah.
He joined the Rangers around the same time I moved to Austria, and he's from Austria.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
There was a little sort of a connection there. He also scored the first goal at the Winter Classic. So
yep,
the only goal I remember. Between him and Valiquette. But yeah, Valiquette is If anyone ever runs into him, I mean, he's the nicest guy. He's tall though. Oof.
I know. He's how tall are you, Steven?
I don't know, 1 meter 75 centimeters. I think that's 5'11".
Okay. Yeah, because I was gonna say that I don't know any of that meter stuff.
No,
you got me lost there. But okay.
So before we sign off, Eric Christensen, who wore number 40 in 2012.
Steven, don't.
What?
What are you gonna say about Eric Christensen that I don't know right now?
Oh, you already know.
And that'll do it, folks. Thank you so much for watching.
He's Darth Vader's cousin.
I know he is Darth Vader's cousin. That'll do it. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great rest of your day whenever you're watching this, and we'll talk to you soon. Let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers.